Elite Facts presents
7 Common Misconceptions About Pirates. Pirates might be the most fun subject to base a film or television show on. I mean, who doesn't love watching them go on their mischievous adventures for booty and rum? Well, unfortunately, a lot of the most popular pirate tropes aren't exactly true. If you strip most of these storybook components away from these scoundrels, they're nothing more than a group of quirky criminals with no distinguishable characteristics. But what are some of the facts about pirates that are false or misinterpreted? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. Here are 7 widely common misconceptions about swashbuckling pirates.
7.
Pirates started being a problem in the 17th and 18th centuries. So the common misconception surrounding pirates is the fact that they were a massive problem during the 17th and 18th centuries, because there were thousands of problematic pirates between around 1650 and 1720 CE. The actual truth is, pirates have been around for a lot longer than that. As a matter of fact, there's evidence that proves that pirates were a huge problem in the Aegean and Mediterranean seas during the 14th century BCE. The ancient Greeks, Romans, and Egyptians all had to be wary of pirates coming into their ports and disrupting their trade. You know how pirates do.
6.
Pirates were old men. Another common misconception is that all pirates were booty-loving, peg-legged, shanty-singing old men. As fun as that sounds, it isn't completely true. I mean, those types of pirates existed, but there were not nearly as many as we've been led to think. Actually, the majority of pirates were probably in their 20s. The reason for this misconception is because many people turned to piracy after first trying their luck as merchants or sailors, which were jobs mainly tailored for younger men. It also probably helped that men in their 20s were less likely to have attachments at home, so they were more willing to become pirates. This actually makes sense, and one study estimates that only 4% of pirates between 1716 and 1726 were married.
5.
A lot of pirates had missing eyes and wore eye patches. Okay, so this one is a bit of an odd one to talk about because the evidence for pirates wearing eye patches is sketchy at best. But if they did, it probably wasn't because they were missing an eye. Now, you're probably saying it makes no sense for pirates to have worn eye patches if they had 2 perfectly good eyes. But there was another reason that they wore them. When you go from a bright area to a completely dark one, it might take your eyes almost half an hour to completely adjust. So pirates may have chosen to keep one of their eyes adjusted in the dark at all times. That way, when they went from the bright decks of the ship to the dark galleys below, they'd be able to use the eye that was normally covered by the patch to see. Personally speaking, we think there must be a better way of dealing with this situation than blinding yourself in one eye for an entire trip, but we're not pirates, so what the hell do we know?
4.
Pirates were old-fashioned and barbaric. Now, this may come as a surprise to some of you, but this isn't necessarily true, as many pirate crews were pretty progressive for their time. Don't believe us? Well, take this for example. Some experts claim that pirates actually had some of the first homosexual marriages, known as matelautages. Bet you weren't expecting that. According to the book Sodomy and the Pirate Tradition, this was, quote, linking a buccaneer and another male, most often a youth, in a relationship with clearly homosexual characteristics. Sometimes this would extend to sharing each other's property and being your partner's sole heir, so homosexuality was accepted in pirate culture. Other common prejudices of the time were ignored too, like the fact that many pirate crews included freed and runaway slaves. It's estimated that 60% of Blackbeard's crew was black. What fiction did get right, however, is that women were very rarely welcomed by pirates. So Keira Knightley can just move right along.
3.
Pirates buried treasure. Let's take a moment to honestly think about this one. Why in the holy hell would pirates take their hard-earned and stolen, just to be clear, treasure, only to hide it in a ditch on some remote island that nobody knows about? Just makes no sense. Still, the idea that pirates bury their treasure persevered and is something that we all need to thank fiction for. Actual pirates wouldn't even think about burying their booty, let alone actually doing it. Well, there was one pirate who was dumb enough to do it, actually. This one pirate was William Kidd, who lived during the 17th century. Authorities found some of his treasure buried on Long Island in New York, which was then used as evidence to convict Kidd. There are still people looking for what may be left of Kidd's buried treasure, but the majority of pirates held on to their riches. I mean, it's common sense after all. It's like if you withdrew all your money from your bank account and then buried it somewhere that you couldn't access it. You just wouldn't do it.
2,
Pirates talked like, well, pirates. Okay, do us a favor. Do your best impersonation of a pirate. Don't worry if you're not good at impressions. Okay, how many of you did something along the lines of, "Arr, matey"? We're betting 99% of you thought it or said it out loud. And the other 1%? Well, probably just did a Jack Sparrow impression. Well, the typical voice and accent that 99% of us think of when we think of pirates is thanks to decades of cartoons and movies where everyone playing a pirate seemed legally obligated to litter their speech with "args" while assuming the intonation of a rowdy drunken Englishman. The only exception seems to be the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, where the pirates are pretty much normal, unless you count Johnny Depp's Captain Jack Sparrow, who sounds like a drunk who's had a stroke. Now, granted, outside of the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, there haven't really been a lot of pirate movies released in the last few decades, but in all that time, there's still managed to be no shortage of pirate-talking characters invading other genres. But the truth of the matter is that phrases like "shiver me timbers" and traditional pirate songs like "15 men on the dead men's chest" were made up by Robert Louis Stevenson for his novel Treasure Island, published in 1883, over 150 years after the end of the golden age of pirates. Most of these pirate stereotypes and tropes all originated from this one piece of literature. Tropes such as one-legged pirates, squawking parrots, drunken mutinies, all that stuff can be traced back to the book Treasure Island. Now, of course, we're not saying that some of these things aren't true at all, as some pirates probably lost limbs in battle, they did mutiny on occasion, and they were known to get absolutely wasted on grog pretty often. But Stevenson was the first to combine all of these elements into one package, creating the popular image of pirates. The accent, however, is something we can blame solely on entertainment media. In the 1950 Disney adaptation of Treasure Island, Robert Newton played a pirate from the West Country and overdid it a little with the accent, throwing "arr" into every other sentence. 2 years later, Newton used the same accent in Blackbeard the Pirate, and the stereotype was cast.
1,
Code of Honor. Believe it or not, pirates did in fact have rules. As previously stated, they weren't barbarians who just took what they wanted whenever they wanted from whomever they wanted. There were codes among the crew on most ships, mostly to keep order. These codes determined how to divide up their day's haul of loot, how bad behavior was to be punished, and so on. But pirates were about as likely to care about their prisoners invoking any sort of code as you would be if an ant you were about to step on were to do so. Now, we do have an example of pirate punishment here, but we must warn you that it's not for the faint of heart. Obviously, we won't be showing any images relating to this, but it's still pretty gruesome to picture in your head. There's a story of a pirate who, while trying to find a villager's gold, cut out one prisoner's heart and fed it to another. And Blackbeard is known to have cut off women's fingers in order to obtain their diamond rings. In general, the more ruthless a pirate was, the higher the regard other pirates had for him. And that's our list. Did we leave any out? Let us know in the comments below. Please remember to subscribe and tap the bell button to be notified when new videos are uploaded. Thanks for watching.
Don't forget to like us and subscribe for more elite facts.